Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. I have yet another exciting new project to announce. I just inked a deal with Netflix for the live-action version of the GLORIO Chat.
Oh, wow.
So everyone can look forward to seeing their favorite scenes recreated, shot for shot, with,
Can't wait for the Legend of Galactic Heroes arc.
Yeah, which one of us is going to be played by Scarlett Johansson?
Yeah, well, we're working on the casting still, but we'll just shoot it with darker lighting and more muted colors. To
I'm
make
sorry,
it prettier.
I don't do this.
Can we get a
like,
mournful remix of Chala Head Chala?
Look,
is that our theme song?
Wait, really? No, it would be like a mournful remix
Radio.
of Bradio. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, I'm sorry to keep I know. Is that show out yet?
We're talking about Cowboy Bebop.
I know.
For
no,
everybody,
is that actually
everybody
out?
not in on the joke?
No,
it comes out. It comes out
Okay.
Friday.
Okay, I was like,
I think some of the
impressions are out there.
I think some of the NDAs have been
That's
lifted.
probably what I'm thinking of. I was like, I feel like I've already seen takes online, but
Yeah.
So my understanding is Twitter impressions are allowed, and proper reviews can drop tomorrow as of this recording.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay.
And then I think this Friday, which would be the 19th, is when it's supposed to actually come out.
Well, we should probably save that discourse for the next podcast then.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that, and just in general, it feels like Netflix and all the other streaming services are constantly announcing new shows here, so we should really get in on that, right?
Yeah, give that Netflix money.
Yeah, call me up, Netflix. Anyway, we got some anime to talk about. We are almost halfway-ish through the season. I've finally caught up with everything, finally. And there are some really good things going on.
There's some things to watch.
But we will get into that. So, to introduce everybody, I'm Jel. I'm joined by Iro.
I'm still here, not dead yet.
And we've got G.
I'm here to talk about the pure, unsullied path that God had forged, that has been ruined, turned into a muddled, poisonous swamp at the hands of anime.
Are we all just more pitiable lost lambs being bled on God's altar?
Thanks, anime.
Yeah, all right.
When God comes to judge us, he'll be looking through the annals of our accomplishments.
Our
and
anime folders.
He'll be like, hold on, what's this around 1960? Anime? All right, it's rapture time.
So, G, how's your first impressions of Shin Megami Tensei V, if anybody wasn't picking that up?
I like it. I genuinely do. I mean, I have always held a sick obsession with the Shin Megami Tensei games. I love their grimy vibe, just their unapologetic willingness to ball harder than just about any other JRPG series out there. And so far, I'm only 3-4 hours into 5, but I'm picking up what it's putting down. I'm digging what it's doing. It's the kind of game where you start out at a high school.
Oh,
really?
Okay.
For about 6 minutes.
Oh.
I'm not even joking. You start out in the fucking classic Persona high school. You literally start in your homeroom, your classroom, walking around talking to people, and then you go to the subway station. And then
the world ends.
And then the world just ends. And you wake up, and it's a horrible demon-filled apocalyptic landscape.
Oh,
it's
shit.
great. It's great. Zero transition, zero explanation of how things went to shit. It's just oops, all demons.
Nice.
And you're left to figure it out.
No, you were the demons.
I've been debating whether I want to give that a whirl. I feel like my mindset is in the right place after finishing Dungeon Encounters.
Yeah, you're.
Shout out to that game again.
Let Hiroyuki Ito make a new Final Fantasy game.
Yes, please. So, I might. I have vacation coming up soon. I might.
Sure. I mean,
grab
like,
that
not to like
play
make
with it.
that reach, but I do kind of feel like, in a ways, I see the like design lineage of like something like Shin Megami Tensei leading to dungeon encounters of just like this like pure mechanics based approach to video game design.
Right.
With just enough RNG based fuckery to drive you a little bit crazy.
Right. Yeah. It feels like it's in that same neighborhood. So I might need to. I still have the appetite for that. It might be the time for me to get onto it. But yeah, that's two cursed games we never thought were going to happen in a row for you, G, because we just did Super Robot Wars last time.
I know, right? I'm still playing that too. It's really good, by the way. We should watch Gun X Sword someday, Ira.
Yeah.
Another
and
ongoing,
also Algheim, and also the King of Braves, Gao.
Yes. Super Robot Wars 30, adding a lot of anime to my backlog.
Yes, as if you needed more.
Yeah, I don't know.
Is our next podcast just the Dunbine Algheim Power Hour? Like,
Which is the Tomino, like, non-Gundam,
the Dungeim podcast.
Yeah.
Like,
you gonna fit Zabungle in there too somehow?
I'm already in the middle of Zabungle, I'm sorry.
Well, if I want to watch Zabungle...
We should watch Zabungle, though. That shit slaps.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm feeling a little blessed right now. Like, despite some of the hard things that are going on, both in the world and in my own personal life at the moment, I feel like in terms of video games,
Yeah,
I'm doing okay this year. Honestly, like a lot of games that feel like they were aimed specifically at me are coming out. So
right.
I certainly can't complain.
Yeah, good times. All right, well. Let's move away from the anime-adjacent games to actual anime. And we'll talk about the shows we're still watching, as a couple things have dropped off. And
Yeah,
whatnot,
I mean...
but there's still quite a few things we're still
I
watching.
mean,
So.
I think, this season is maybe not hitting as hard as, say, a spring 2021, but, like, the fact that there's still, like, half a dozen shows on this list that we're all keeping up with, I think is...
And a couple of these are
we
really
would be
good.
calling this a pretty strong season in any other year, I think.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would.
It has to exist in the same time space as possibly the best single season in the entire time we've been doing this.
Yes, fair enough.
Yeah. So let's talk about, we'll warm up a bit and talk about Aquatope on White Sand.
Well, speaking of the harsh reality of being employed,
I am continuing to love the fact that they have completely transitioned over to the full workplace
yes,
drama, as we talked about last time. And this being sort of the middle of the show, we're kind of hitting some of the different characters. So, like, the first episode in this block, we... learn a little bit more about the part-timer girl in the marketing department.
yeah,
And they get into the thing where like everybody in the show is super passionate about aquariums for whatever reason, but she's like, I'm just here because I needed a job.
right. I mean, I really appreciate that, honestly. I mean, I think it's kind of sweet that, like, at the end she decides to, put in the extra time that she's paid for, that she's
Yes, they
fairly
explicitly
compensated
make
for.
sure we'll pay you for your overtime. Yes.
Which, boy, that sounds nice. I'm not gonna say anything else about that, but and it's a little sweet that even at the end she kind of grows to like the aquarium a little bit more. But like, I'm not gonna lie, I almost kind of wish by the end of that episode she was still like, yeah, this is a pretty good gig, but
Yeah, I'm just here for the paycheck.
I'm here
right?
for the paycheck, because it's like there's nothing
yeah.
wrong with that, right? Like, I mean, I think even the show gets into that, right? Like when oh my god, I'm getting everybody's names mixed up at this point. When former idol girl is talking
Fuka?
when Fuka is talking to Kukuru, right? And Kukuru's all like, man, I don't know how I feel about like taking over. I think the part-timer's name is Akari. Akari is like a suggestion, like. And I feel like she's not like as passionate about it as she could be. And Fuka's just like, I think honestly, most people do not work in the occupation that they're passionate about, right? And it's like, damn.
Yeah, I think it's like this for a show that is still, even though they have their moments of reality, it's still obviously overly optimistic and like,
yes.
Very, overly sweet, and everybody's. We've only have one person in a cast of like 20 people here that is not super passionate about fish and like aquariums and stuff like that. But at least they acknowledge like that's a thing.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that.
And they even have like the moment because she kind of comes to realize like all these people are still like working hard, and sometimes their job still sucks, and they're not having fun all the time,
For sure.
even though they're
Yeah,
doing what
definitely.
they're passionate about. So,
Right. I mean, I think that's also the other angle of this episode I really appreciated, where they talk about how, hey, just because you're doing something that is your passion doesn't mean it's not work. Like,
Right. It's still, and in fact, it being your passion and your job is.
yeah, they
it's
throw out, like
complex
that
emotions.
that
Yes.
saying we all hate about like if you do what you love, you won't work a day in your life. They're like, no,
that's bullshit.
that's
a-
not
all-
true at all. So they
that's
acknowledge.
bullshit.
It's like you can be satisfied with the results, but getting there is still a pain in the ass a lot of
Oh
times.
yeah, totally right.
Yeah.
Like they kind of get into that, right? Like you can love the shit out of these fish, but like there are still aspects of that job that are a pain in the ass, you know?
Yeah. So that was a neat episode. And then I know G, you mentioned you haven't seen the latest one.
I assume they pay off on like the stinger of the prior episode of like Kukuru being offered her own like project or whatever.
Kind of, but
Oh, no?
the
Okay.
the big plot line is because for some reason these PA work shows always have to have an episode where a TV crew shows up.
Oh man.
Oh boy.
A TV show being put on by Fuka's old idol production company
Of course.
comes by.
Ah.
So we were overdue to check in on how Fuka's doing because like
I mean,
she
Fuka's been like weirdly irrelevant for like the last few episodes.
yeah, like
honestly.
she came back after the midpoint break
Yeah.
after the time skip, but she's been just kind of like she went from like the other main character to like one of the side characters, right?
Yeah, basically.
And so she gets an episode to catch up with how she's going, and I have to say I'm kind of I don't know if it's surprised, but I'm glad that they've doubled down on her decision to leave the idol industry because
okay.
I thought there was still like maybe a 50 to 60% chance that she was going to get back into that.
Right.
And they make it very clear that she has no regrets about leaving the idol industry, and this is what she wants to do in this episode.
That's cool to hear, honestly, because I feel like my worry was always like, well, they will fold the idol stuff back in somehow, right? Because I mean, even Sakura Quest, right, had that plot line about like not the failed actor, but like the actress, I forget her name, but the tomboyish one, right?
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
And how like the message of Sakura Quest was like, just because you like maybe you couldn't make it in like your original passion doesn't mean you can't find ways to incorporate it
and
into your life in other ways, right?
Right.
But so I was really ready for that to come up with Fuka, right? Of, okay, even though you quit the idol business, you'll still like end up on stage somehow, right?
Yeah. So yeah, they pretty definitively decide that hey, she's done. She has no regrets. This is what she wants to do, and she's moved on with her life. Which, I'm looking back at, when we were maybe halfway through the first season, and like, I'm predicting she's gonna save the aquarium,
Right,
but with her idol
with her
powers.
idol powers, yeah.
Right. Yes.
Which
yes.
would have been the most obvious anime way to do it,
right.
and I'm glad they did not go that route because
Yeah, it's cool
we're
that they
going
are.
into territory that we're not normally going into.
Yeah, it definitely makes me wonder how the show is going to wrap up in the end, right? Because I feel like, is it going to be the thing of, like, maybe Kukuru doesn't actually, like, save the old aquarium, right? Like, this is not going to end with her reopening it, right? But maybe this is going to end with Kukuru becoming the, like, lead director of, like, a section of Tingara, right? Like,
Right.
is it going to be that sort of thing of, like, she's still going to find a place that feels right for her, even if it is like not the same location that she's always held this like emotional connection to.
Yeah,
And
I think
honestly, I almost feel like that might be healthier, right? Of like,
Yeah.
look, like life is sometimes about letting go of things and finding new connections, right?
yeah. The only thing that is still hanging to me that thinks that plot line isn't totally dead is the magic element.
Oh, right,
Which-
little
Oh yeah, what's up with that dude?
The little demigod boy, yes.
Yeah, so
What's he
in
up to?
the old aquarium, we still like see him pop in here and there, but like the old aquarium had the thing where you would like see your dead loved ones or whatever in the aquarium.
Yes.
And like that, I don't need them to necessarily explain that, but I feel like you brought it up. It should be relevant.
It'd be better if they followed up on it somehow.
There is an undeniable like supernatural aspect to.
Yeah. And obviously, after they closed the aquarium, that just went away. So, like,
right.
I don't know if they're going to come back to that in some capacity. If the magic powers are going to follow Kukuru to the new place or something, I don't know. But yeah. Overall, I mean, again, it's still a little too maybe optimistic and cheery to be like super realistic, but they've also gone directions that I was not expecting them to go, and those little gut punches of reality that they throw in there are always entertaining with TV shows. Sure. So, all right, let's move on to talk about the Heike Story. I have caught up on this completely.
Okay,
all right.
It's very good.
Yeah. It's a spoilers. Pretty good. Pretty good anime.
I feel like they really stepped their game up in episode 9, presentation wise.
9 very much feels like. I mean, Eero's the one who clued me into this, but the end of episode 9 is portraying what is apparently like one of the iconic moments of the Heike story, and so it kind of feels like this is very much meant to be a very like not the yes, a thematic set piece to the story, and I think they do a really magnificent job framing it.
They really rose to the occasion, even just like in the technical presentation. Like,
totally.
Like the show always looks good.
Yeah,
but this was like from TV to like movie quality, like
right. I mean, I haven't really mentioned it here in the podcast yet, but we have talked about how good this anime looks. But the thing I've really appreciated is like you get those shots every now and then in the Heike Story anime where like the coloring and the style of line art and the composition feel like it is intentionally emulating like Japanese style like woodblock print.
Yes.
Like have you got like I think the most notable example of that is like when the Heike torch their own like fucking ancestral home and as they flee from it, and like there's that like fucking like mix of like the like green of the ocean and like the like golden reflection of the fire of the burning buildings off of it that is just like immaculate. Like it's and I think there's one like that in episode 9 as well. There's a lot of the coloring feels like it's intentionally kind of like emulating that style of artwork, and it's just so impressive. Like I'm really bowled over by it.
Yeah, and you combine that and the way they're telling the story in a way, even though if it's technically, let's say, history based, like you could look up in Wikipedia what's going to happen next, or you can really even guess what's happening next even if you don't know. Like it's like a slow moving car crash here. They really get you emotionally invested in it. Like,
oh totally.
Oh yeah,
like,
absolutely.
There's some really powerful moments as things are rapidly going downhill for the Heike as they're on the run here. And you mentioned last time when Yoshitsune shows up, it's it's a wrap, and that's pretty much where we're at, right?
Yeah, like
he shows
like,
up and he's just like quiet force of nature almost.
Yeah, I really like it. Like I was very curious how the Genji were going to be portrayed in this story. I think we've talked about like the very strange, but again, it's almost like I wish I could speak to like, I don't know, a native Japanese speaker or someone who like went to school in Japan and like ask them like, is this actually how Yoritomo was? Like, is this portrayal of Yoritomo like
what you learned at school?
or is this, or like, is there a certain cultural context that explains this portrayal of Yoritomo as this sort of like hem-hawing, kind of weak-willed like guy who just happens to be the one who like ends up winning the whole thing, right?
Right.
You know, because like we see here, right? Like there's the brief like Genji civil war, right? Like Yoshinaka, the more uncouth one, tries to like take over, and like he gets got. And then Yoshitsuna shows up, and he's kind of just, as Iroso put it, like a force of nature. He's barely even a character yet. Like he just shows up, and the Heike are like obliterated.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting. I feel like, and I kind of dig it, honestly. Like I because we have spent so much time with the Heike, I don't mind that even here, as we watch them tragically get snuffed out one by one, like. Mm-hmm. We are still mostly viewing their perspective, and the inevitable tragedy of it.
They give you just enough taste of the big picture to know what's going on, but they're not they're not putting too much focus on that. In episode 9, you have a lot of big battles and things happening, but they happen in in a few minutes.
Yeah,
and like the big climax of the episode is a single one-on-one
totally
fight in the which is, and it's like incredibly powerful.
Totally right. It's and like it definitely like it's I guess in hindsight like this is my fault for not knowing the history. I get not whatever. Well, I am enjoying this show for what it is, but now it has me wondering like, oh man, like were people who were like watching this show who are familiar with the history like. The second that Atsumori shows up earlier on,
they're just like, this poor,
guy,
this poor beautiful young man, right? Like this, like, because I even remember when I was watching and when that guy showed up, I was like, this dude is like really weirdly pretty. Like, what's up with this guy? It's like, it's perfect, right? Like they had set it up as soon as he had showed up, like. What his fate was going to be in episode 9, like the literally too pretty to kill.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really know the history either. I'm just assuming everybody's going to die except for Biwa, because she's the
original character.
Yes.
The original character telling the story.
Speaking of, I do kind of want to briefly get into like Biwa's stuff in the latest episode, right, where she finally finds her mother, and
yes,
this it's a really like great scene, where like this has been her like end game goal this whole show, right? Basically, is to find her mother, and then she finds her mother and is frankly disappointed by what she finds.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, when her mother like actively admits, "Oh yeah, I abandoned you and your father the moment my future vision told me I would," and it's like,
yep. Because it made my life easier.
Right, and just like, and when Biwa is like, no, that's not my birth name, I'm Biwa now, it's like, it's a cool bit of self-actualization, right? Like, she has internalized who she is, and unlike her mother, she is going to embrace the power she has been given for good or ill, right? Like, she will bear witness to the end of the Heike,
right?
No matter what.
Yeah, it's like, even if she can't change what she sees, she's going to stare it in the eye, at it.
Like, and commit to memory, right, to prove that these people's lives had meaning, right? Like, they were not just, I mean, other than Kiyomori, they were not just villains, right? They were not just like the monsters in the story. They were people, and they had their own agendas and wants, and
and they just get swept up in all of it. But yeah, it's just really good. I talked about it being, dry or whatever in the first couple episodes, but after you get kind of used to who everybody is and everything, it's really great.
I mean, again, I don't want to go full.
When you get like, think about like an episode like 1 or 2, Sukamori was just like that punk kid,
right?
Like, the uncouth brother, and now he's like the Heike never had honor,
right? Yes, it's very good.
Like, jeez, dude.
Yeah,
like. Oh man, just what like again, it's like not to go full boss baby here, but like again, it's kind of like how when we all first started watching Legends of the Galactic Heroes, and like we were like, man, there's a lot of people on screen. I don't know if I could keep up with this. And then like 20 episodes later, you're like, damn, what's Attenborough been up to lately?
I mean, there's still a lot of people I don't remember. Galactic Heroes,
but like, I mean, for example,
the main like all like Reinhardt's admirals and everybody. Yeah,
sure. But I mean, to go back to Heike, it's like, for example, I mean, it kind of helps that only one of the bald old men is left.
Yes,
It's a lot easier to identify him.
that was. I think you could kind of tell by their clothes, maybe, but like,
Yeah.
it was real.
Differently shaped heads.
Yes, I know they do, but
yeah.
come on. Episode
Which
1,
which terrible bald old man are
like
we
when
looking at
Emperor
right now?
Go Shirakawa and Kiyomori are like in the same fucking like or appearing back to back. Like,
Right.
It's like,
And you're like, oh, hang on.
hang on a second, who are these dudes?
Is this later in the day or is this a different person?
Right.
Yeah. All right. So, I mean, I
Good
guess
show.
with the timing, that's probably going to be ending way sooner than everything else.
Yeah,
So we're kind of hitting
probably,
the end
yeah.
game on this, whereas, we're kind of
Yeah.
halfway with everything else. So
I mean, like, spoilers, but, like, for the history, it's extremely funny that Yoshitsune fucking shows up in episode 9, and by the next podcast, he'll probably be dead.
yeah.
Maybe.
Like,
Look at the.
Well, that's
He's got to
Spoilers.
jump to 8 boats. Like
Yoshitsune doesn't win the war. I mean, he does, but he doesn't win in terms of getting to live to see the end of the war.
yeah.
So,
That's how war goes sometimes.
it's some real fucking Dynasty Warriors shit,
shouts
you know? Like,
to the 2 seconds of Benkei. We get.
yes, also, we finally get Benkei.
Shouts to Benkei.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will probably get Benkei holding the bridge sometime
Hell
in
yeah.
like, the next couple of episodes.
Yeah. Maybe by next
Benkei's cool.
podcast here. All right. Well, that's real good. Let's move on to talk about Takt op.destiny.
Well,
Before we get
speaking of another a great take on a country's cultural history, and
All right. Well, before that, I do need to say my piece about the Texas episode.
okay,
We did say last podcast episode, oh man, what if they go to Texas next?
Right.
Which would be like the most stereotypical American place to go.
Right.
No, it wasn't.
And I'm not going to say the episode was bad, because in a vacuum it was fine, but it felt like a missed opportunity because they did not. So they end up going through Houston or something.
right, and,
But they're
And-
mostly just stopping there for 2 seconds.
Yeah,
Right, like
they
it's-
basically stop for supplies or something. Most of it's on a train,
yeah,
I do like
and
train.
we don't
episodes.
really get any wacky anime Texas in
Right.
that episode.
All we
It
get
is-
is wacky character from the mobile game.
yes.
showing up.
Also, we get See, on one hand, I totally agree that like we not getting anime Texas is deeply unfortunate. On the other hand, that lady is named Hell, and her power is she grows fucking like Beyblade feet, and
Just kicks things in half.
fucking cuts that D2 into 4 pieces. And
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, just another problematic waifu to add to the list.
Yeah, she's a little problematic.
Just,
Um,
but
Very leads to the very wacky line in the next episode where they say, "Hey, we got the report from Hell
Yes.
about the shipment."
right. I actually liked that in the second episode. So that one they go to New Orleans,
they go to Anime
Yes.
New Orleans.
which they actually. It's not really wacky, but they get a little into it. They do go to like a general store from like the 1800s.
Yes, again with the like absurdly,
Buying. They buy tomato sauce, corn flakes, and yellow mustard.
Yeah, I want to
That's
know.
it.
I want to know what
are
they're
you
doing.
cooking on the
wanna-
road?
I want to know what they're doing with that.
Again,
I would argue only those cornflakes are acceptable like road food.
So I will again say for posterity here, if in the next episode there is just a one-off visual gag of them having to eat cornflakes with tomato sauce and mustard, I will forgive this entire bit.
Absolutely.
And in fact, Takt Opus will be anime of the year.
Yeah, that's anime. That's anime of the year quality right there.
But that hinges on them actually making good on that one visual gag later.
Just gonna get like what's the equivalent of the show of Sword smothering a birthday cake sized steak in ketchup, like
God, just like fucking like instead of pouring milk into your cornflakes, you're pouring tomato sauce. Jesus.
Oh God, I'm gonna like throw up
Sounds
thinking about that. Yeah, that and they
well,
bought it from like this like
plain cornflakes are just starch, like they have no flavor. It's just
It's just the combination of textures and things though would not sit well with me. And they bought it from like a general store that looked like it was like from 1895.
Right, like this dude coming out of fucking Oregon Trail or something.
He's taking things off the cans off the shelf for them. So that was pretty funny. But I liked that they don't have do they have a fight in episode 6 at all?
No.
Yeah, there's no fight.
Not really. No, it is kind of a purely character building episode.
And they actually just get to, well, I mean, Takt basically finds a underground jazz club in New Orleans, right? And they kind of use that as the vehicle to learn more about his father and all that. Right. But
I will shout out that when they find the piano, they actually tune the piano.
Yes, he tunes the piano. But, you know, he was playing music, so I was expecting that we were going to get a fight. That's how the formula has gone.
I'm sure they soundproofed that room, you know? They planned ahead, you know? It's
underground, it's soundproofed, it's pretty chill.
I will say, like, just as a brief aside, I know this game and this anime are about classic music, so of course they're going to lean into that, but not a lot of jazz for an episode that takes place in New Orleans, I gotta say, you know?
Yeah, I mean, at least they acknowledged that they were not playing jazz. Cause
yes, look, they played the Cisco marching in for like
Louis
20
Armstrong.
Seconds.
Yeah, they had a little Louis Armstrong in there, but
which is like fine. That's your lip service, I guess. But
at least they're like, oh well, yeah, I guess we can put on some classical music if that's what you want.
Yeah. But,
so
I'm not gonna lie. I actually did not mind. I feel like Takt Opus is, ironically, it acts, again, maybe it is the connection with the writer, but I feel like it is in many ways kind of like sliding into this sort of like Vanishing Line-esque format of like, it is saving its budget for the big set piece episodes, like, you know, the one where Hell kicks a demon into quarters. Like, they're going to save their budget for moments like that, and in exchange, we're going to get these kind of slower character-based episodes of like, fucking the girls just doing random Yakuza-esque side quests for the townspeople.
Gotta get that cat down.
Get that cat off the roof.
Gotta fucking
fix this porch.
Appease this delusional
woman that lost her daughter or whatever. Yeah. Definitely had that Yakuza sub-story energy.
Yes,
but I mean, I was expecting Cosette to smash through somebody's house at some point, and it just never happened. So.
Right.
By the way, just one point out, this show takes place in like 2047 or something like that. These like old women are millennials.
Yes, they are our age.
They grew up on TikTok and
yes.
and Vines. So having them be like, "Why don't you come in for some apple jam?" is like hilarious.
Yes, the idea that, like, oh man, anybody in our fucking age bracket is going to be acting like a fucking 50s era Americana grandma in like 20 years is extremely funny to me.
I don't want to think too hard about how old I'll be. Will I still be alive in 2047? Yes, I'll still be alive in 2047. Okay.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.
I had to do some quick mental math on that one.
Jesus Christ.
Woo!
That depends on how many environmental disasters we have. Dude.
This podcast
I feel like
taking
I'm not,
a dark turn
I
here.
feel like I'm not even joking anymore when I say, you know, in some like bizarre roundabout way, the America of Takt op.destiny seems like a more promising version of America's future than the one we actually have.
Oh, well, you know, everyone's forced to stay in their homes and
not play music ever.
Yeah,
I'll give up music in exchange for apparently Las Vegas being habitable enough to like farm in 20 years.
The Earth is healing. Yes, from
the East is burning red.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, other than maybe the cool moments of Hell kicking that thing to death, not the most exciting episodes, but they're still pretty solid. I think as far as, you know, we're our middle of the series, filler show episodes here. I think they still do a good job of making me not hate the characters when I very easily could hate the characters, particularly Takt, who I don't love, but he's like tolerable because the the show keeps him in his place, I guess.
Right. I mean, characters like Takt only work if the cast is willing and ready to shit on that character
They're
at
like,
a given
no,
moment.
stay in the car. We'll roll the windows down a little bit.
He's not because he is like I guess a musical. Is he a musical genius, or he's just really good at piano? I don't know.
He might as well be, right?
But he's that type of character,
Yes.
which is usually good at everything and does no wrong. And the show does a good job of keeping him in his place. And he's not like awful. Like,
no, he's not like terrible.
he has
like,
some humanity to him.
Yes.
So I think that helps a lot when they very easily they stuck like real tight to the anime stereotypes. I mean, they're still kind of stereotypes, but if they were really tight to them, I think it would have been a lot more annoying. So
definitely
that helps us get through these episodes that are just everybody hanging out, for sure. So,
well, speaking of shows that stick to stereotypes in the absolute worst ways imaginable,
yeah. See, you guys are still watching Kyoukai Senki, huh?
for some reason.
God,
how's that been going?
All right, let me put it as succinctly as I can here, which is watching Kyoukai Senki makes me think back. It makes me flash back to a decade and a half ago and go, yeah, Code Geass wasn't that bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I am looking back on Code Geass and Iron-Blooded Orphans with rose-tinted glasses because of Kyoukai Senki.
Wow.
This anime is so fucking generic. Like, this is like, it's not even offensively bad. Like, this is not an All Noah Zero. This is not a Gundam Seed. Like, Kyoukai Senki is just so painfully mediocre.
Yes.
That, like, I am looking back at some of the most famous train wrecks in Mecha and going, at least those had memorable moments.
They still swung for offenses, like...
they made that pizza in Code Geass with the mech.
Uh-huh.
They made a mech-sized pizza that
and
one
Code
episode.
Geass, when they rode the train in Code Geass, and they dramatically said, look at how the rich foreigners are living compared to the Japanese ghetto! Like, at least it looked like a fucking ghetto in Code Geass. At least I had a concept of why it was like this.
Right, and also, like, again, it's just like, I know this is not the show to question this stuff. I know that I am nitpicking things this show doesn't care to answer.
It brought it up!
But because this is a show that has positioned itself as political, then I believe I have the right to question its politics.
Exactly.
And a lot of the most recent episodes have mostly been focusing on the oppression of the Japanese at the hands of the occupying forces. Primarily the Chinese-coded faction that are literally just called the Asians.
Mm-hmm.
And... they're just every fucking sneering, like, just short of racial caricature stereotype of, like... Like, there's
They're like one step away from giving them slanted eyes or something. Like...
Oh, I mean, they have them.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean,
well...
no. Kyoukai Senki is doing the anime thing of every Japanese person looks like a regular anime character.
Right.
But the moment someone who is ethnically Asian that is not Japanese shows up, they immediately default to, like, the most obvious racial caricature. And, like, it's even crazier than that because, like, you got this, like, fucking squinty-eyed devil man showing up with pointy elf ears to further emphasize how villainous he is.
I don't like that.
And they do an extremely poor job of explaining where the oppression comes from. And this is not me, like, taking some neoliberal tact of, like, well, oppression has to be, like, rational. There has to be a reason for oppression. I'm not saying that. But in a piece of fiction in which you are positioning a people as being colonized and oppressed, you need a way better reason than just, like, base cruelty. Like,
right.
I can't, like, we've talked about this of, like, the reason why we're even looking back at Code Geass more fondly is, like, Code Geass actually did the legwork to explain why multiple nations would try to colonize Japan by giving Japan a, like, made-up resource that it has almost, like, exclusive rights to.
Yes.
And so, like, that justify, I mean, not to get too political here, but, it's almost kind of like why America fights all its wars in the Middle East, right? Oil. Like, Code Geass had Sakuradite or whatever it was called. As far as we know, Japan in Kyoukai Senki has nothing. It is just regular Japan.
What are you talking about? We have all of these beautiful traditional crafts,
and yet,
like pot
for
making,
some reason,
and
for
tea
some
ceremony.
reason, yes, like. Also, yes, they've done this like really weird, like I would almost call nationalist dog whistle thing of like the reason why the occupiers are truly evil is because they're like intentionally targeting like Japanese like heritage, right? They're destroying our traditional like pottery kilns and they're destroying our ceremonial tea houses and like again, I don't think this show is necessarily going to go full like make Nippon great again.
Foreigners ruining our culture.
Nanking isn't real. All that shit. I don't think it's going to go that far, but like it very much feels like somehow like the kids' version of it, like how you would sell this brand of nationalism to children, and there's something like distinctly gross about that to me. But even on the just more base, like as a real robot fan level. Like, so one of the conflicts that happens between the occupier factions, right? Like, the idea is, okay, like, four foreign nations have divided up Japan into their own, like, protectorate territories, right? But the implication is that there is still even, like, they are not a unified front, right? They are conflicting with each other.
Yeah.
The problem they don't explain is why. Like...
Right.
Like, for some reason, one of the factions, I think the USA coded faction, attacks the Chinese coded faction, and it causes a bunch of collateral damage.
I think it's Oceanians, so it's like Australia.
Australia, I find the Australian coded faction. And, like, there's zero explanation why they're doing it. It's just like, we're going to show those Asians, like, how we do things. And it's like, why?
I mean, even if they had a reason...
Here? Is there, like...
Yeah. Like, even if they had a reason to be there, then you could be like, oh, well, they're fighting over the resources or whatever.
Right,
but
it's not even
just
that.
nothing.
No, it's just like, oh, the Asians are here. Well, let's shoot at them in the chaos. It's like, to what end?
Like, to what end? Right, that's the thing. Like, one of the weird things that Code Geass actually did that I kind of liked in its, like, roundabout way is, like, the weird, like, alliance that happens between the, like... the independent Chinese holdouts and the Black Knights towards the end of season 1, right? Where it's kind of like very much an alliance of convenience.
We both hate those white people.
Right, and it's like there was actually a little bit of interesting like geopolitics going on there. Like Kyoukai Senki, none of it. Nothing. No substance. There's nothing to analyze here. Like, I have nothing to hold on to. Like, Kyoukai Senki is a formless sphere of an anime. Like...
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing. There's no substance. This show has nothing.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have cool... Like, okay, I will admit, my Kyoukai Senki Gunpla kit did arrive in the mail.
They got you. That's how they get you.
No, of course they got me. They won. They
won. Never ends.
If Kyoukai Senki's one goal, even for people like me, was if they could sell even one kit to a person like me, they won. Yeah. So congratulations, Kyoukai Senki. Your mecha design is pretty good. But...
yeah.
Like, plot-wise, there's nothing to work with here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
well...
complete... Ugh, nothing.
You guys mentioned that whole backlog of other mecha shows you could be watching. Or as we talked about last time, maybe it's time to swap over to 86.
Maybe.
86.
At least they'll give you something to talk about. But, yeah. That's disappointing.
Christ.
Waste of good robots. You hate to see
right?
it.
Yeah.
You hate to see it. I look forward to Kyoukai Senki showing up.
These two designs and made a just new IGPX or something.
Yeah, or I don't know, maybe just put... I mean, maybe Kyoukai Senki will be fixed when they put it in Super Robot Wars, inevitably.
Yeah, right. Whenever that happens. Although, I mean, this feels like the kind of show that you're going to forget the day the next anime season starts.
Oh, yes, without a doubt.
Oh, yeah.
So... Maybe like 5 years from now, as we're doing a blog retrospective, it'll be like, "Hey, you remember Kyoukai Senki?" No. But yeah.
Unless there's a meme on the level of push the stop all war button.
Yo, Biggie, deploy that tactical big ass ramp.
We'll never forget the price of smiles. So, all right,
we've paid the price of smiles.
let's move along to something very good.
All right, let's move to the good shit.
What a good fucking show.
So I marathoned Ranking of Kings last night and through last night into this morning.
Man, yes. Tell us what you think.
It's fantastic.
What a good show. Holy shit.
Whatever you think it is in the first episode, just multiply that by 10 by the time you get to episode 5 at least. The level of I was not expecting the level of escalation to this story. Also, some of the just like totally wild things that happen. You guys didn't tell me. You know what really got me? Because this was actually in one of the episodes we were talking about last time. You guys did not mention when Bocchi it seems like he's run out of friends and allies and family and everything, and he runs in the cave. And he finds his friend, the giant two-headed talking snake.
Yes, the formerly three-headed, now two-headed snake.
One-eyed mega snake. I will never forget.
At least I got this favor left to cash in. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. And the great thing is, like, that snake doesn't even accompany him later. That snake just like, oh, all right, that's my one favor.
Yep. Cashed it in. Hope everything goes well, Bocchi. See you later.
It's so good. Like, no explanation. I mean, other than the explanation that he saved the snake when it was young, right? And, like, it's great that that's all you need, right? Like, we don't need to, like... I think that's the great thing about, like, Ranking of Kings is that it feels like... How do I put this? It feels like fantasy. Or it feels like what we want. Right. It feels like what we remember about the best fantasy, right? Like, of a world that is mysterious and unknowable, right? Where we feel like outsiders watching, right? We don't understand the rules. We don't understand how things work. Like, I feel like so much fantasy these days, even good fantasy...
Oh, yes.
It kind of feels familiar, right? Like, okay, wizards do this.
Oh,
like,
fantasy is up there for genre incest.
Yeah,
right.
it's like you're in medieval Europe and there's a little sprinkling of magic and
right.
Yeah.
But like Ranking of Kings, which is ironically looks like maybe the most generic fantasy setting imaginable, does all these like weird things with it that just feel off kilter enough to feel fresh again.
Let's stop by in the forest with Crazy Forest King, who is
implied to be like the former #1 king who like went mad with the revelation and
by the way, here the Gate of Hell's over there.
Also by the way, it's guarded by an order of knights who just stay there to fight back against the demonic incursions into our world.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I kind of thought of, particularly in the latest episode. The latest episode is the one they do the ritual to
this
transfer the power of the king.
Incredibly circuitous.
Oh my god!
Obviously,
that was like some like
ritual.
Dorohedoro tier weird magic
I know,
ritual.
Right? Yes.
I was thinking a lot about Dorohedoro
when
with that.
They like cook that dude's body into a turkey or something, right?
Yes. Where the one with the turkey mask cooks the like Noi like
corpse into a
look-alike or whatever.
Yeah. That kind of just like totally out there.
I mean, that feels like a Dorohedoro bit, right? Like, fucking N opens up his fucking, like, kitchen, and he's about to fucking grind a sorcerer with a goddamn kitchen mix or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, they literally put him into, like, the meat grinder.
Blender.
Into, like, a blender.
Like, they put their giant king in a giant king-sized blender.
Oh, my God. It's so, like, I was not expecting that.
I think the thing I love
of...
about that is, like, the arcaneness of it is so arcane that it's like, oh, this isn't new. They know how to do this. These guys down here...
Right, there's a process for this.
There is a process, right? It's not just, all right, we blended up the king, drink the king.
We have a weird magnifying glass room.
Right.
We built this giant oven to cook the phoenix down.
Right? It's like if you blended the king and you tried to drink the king and they would jump in like, no, are you stupid? You don't drink the blended king. You put it in the orb and you hold it up to the light. It's like, God, have you never done this before?
No, I haven't.
It's like,
yeah.
No, we gotta wait until it hatches into a phoenix and then chop its head off. And
yes, we have this
room with the king.
We have this room to push the phoenix into, so we can chop its head off and it can bleed out. And
oh my god.
Yeah, and so on top of like just that, then you've got the actual story and the characters, which are fantastic.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, like
you guys kind of touched on like with the Queen, but kind of all the characters have like nuances of good and bad to them.
Oh, there's so much interesting
having
stuff
having Daida after this disgusting ritual actually be like, no, I'm not gonna drink that.
Right?
Are you crazy?
And like it's like I still want somebody to punt him across the room, but
right. But it's like it's that cool thing of like I think everybody who's looking at a character like Daida is immediately going to be like, oh, just like King Joffrey, right? Like Game of Thrones, shitty boy king, right? But like in a weird way, is like the thing they do with Daida that feels really good is like his refusal of the potion isn't even out of character, right?
Right.
Like the thing we learn about Daida is that he is a young man defined by his pride. His pride is his greatest weakness, but in this moment, it is also his greatest strength, right? Like he is furious, he is seething at his weakness and inadequacy, right? As a king, right? He desperately desires strength, but when presented with a quick and like clearly evil, messed up way to gain strength, he still refuses it.
In this moment, it prevents him from being manipulated. Like,
yeah.
Like,
I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I bet like in like 2 episodes that potion's gonna be in him one way or another. Like, I just feel like that's the kind of show this is. But like the fact that he still initially refuses it is, I think, really
solid character
even
writing. Yeah,
like even a character like him who feels like the flattest character we've seen so far still has like this depth to him that like I don't know, man.
It's just not pure cartoon evil.
Yeah,
villain.
I mean, even Domas, like as much of a piece of shit as he is,
yeah.
There's an interesting thing going on with that character, right? I mean,
I think it's establishing a reason for why they're committing these evil acts, and even though they're still wrong, like there's a logical thread as to why. Like you can understand how we got to this point. It's not like they're just like, well, he's just evil and he wants to throw a kid into a fiery pit,
and like he's still. Yes, he committed the evil act, but like he has remorse appropriately about it. Shook up.
Yeah, I mean, dude cuts off his own hand at the end of it all, right? Like out of like self-loathing for what he's done.
And then you got badass spear guy,
Appius,
who's doing something. Oh,
he's doing something. I mean,
but...
here's my speculation. Like, I know this manga's already out there, so we could just like find out for ourselves. But I'd rather just keep watching the anime.
Yeah.
Daida refuses the potion. Then Appius shows up to kill Daida. That's what forces Daida to drink the potion.
He's gonna like lick it off the floor or something.
Lick it off the floor, right? Like, turns out actually Daida would have refused the potion, but Appius comes in here and ruins everything with his like weird anti-Daida murder boner.
Yeah.
Like,
who knows? I would not be surprised either way.
Yeah.
We know he's down there because we saw him, but he did not take any action in
also that frozen lady is like Boji's mom, right?
But she's not big enough. Was the thing, right?
I don't know. I mean,
like the first episode of something like Boji is like clinging to his mother's finger, and she's also a giant.
All right, I guess you're right.
Yeah, because they say
Boji is a giant who was stripped of his power or something like.
So,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of, what do y'all think of King Waluigi?
Waluigi is the king of hell.
I gotta be honest, the moment I saw that dude's design, I was like, "Oh, this is great."
White off like One Piece or something.
I can't wait for what this dude's deal is. Like,
yeah,
Crusader King, Crusader Knights.
What's his ranking? I mean,
what's his ranking?
Oh wait, King Waluigi?
Yeah,
I bet.
If Daida's is like what? They said 70 place.
70, and King Boss was 7.
Yeah.
I kind of want to believe, because I think it would just be funny if King Waluigi was ranked higher than King Boss.
Right, like number
just
4.
Top 5.
Yeah.
Like, he's defending the gates of hell.
Yeah, must be pretty badass.
Must be pretty badass.
Yeah.
I mean, they also have said, I think they literally say, right, that, like, strength alone doesn't determine a king's ranking, right? Like, King Boss smashed that golem with a single swing of his club, and that was only enough to make him rank 7. So
right,
I feel like...
Right, yeah.
Well, they gave it a reason for that, right? Because they said if it was strength alone, he'd be number one.
Right, so there was more than just strength to what makes a good king, right? I mean, there's that bit where, like, the inspector is like, he's not just inspecting the king, he's inspecting the kingdom, right? Like,
right.
So I could definitely, I don't know. I guess, man, I don't know. What a cool, what a great show.
Yeah, there's like, it's just firing, like, on all cylinders. It looks
really
fantastic.
is. Yeah.
The animation is amazing.
Yeah, again, that fucking fight between Bebin and Appius is so good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like, just.
Yeah, and it's like I don't think I have any like negative things to say about it.
No,
like
it's just a really solid show.
It's got, like, it looks good. The animation's good. I really like the art style. It's very different than typical anime. Like we said before, it looks like a manga from the 60s or something.
Yeah.
But I don't even know if that really does it full justice as I've now seen the show. But it has a unique look to it. A lot of creativity injected into what could have been a very boring fantasy setting.
Right.
I mean, he's got his little shadow buddy.
Kage.
Is
I mean,
really weird.
Shout outs to Kage, because I mean,
the real MVP.
Yeah. It's because we do these bi-weekly. We didn't have time to speculate about this on a recording, but yes, like, we were all pretty fucking sure Kage was the one protecting Boji from all that shit, and very gratifying when he fucking jumps out of that backpack.
Yeah.
We have our tearful reunion.
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, you got the creative elements and great story and characters that really hit. I mean, some of those moments hit hard.
They do. They really do. I mean, it's super impressive.
And they managed to do some pretty harsh things without feeling like overly cruel. I feel like, or like, I was gonna spin that into a shot at To Your Eternity, but
I thought you were gonna make a shot at Made in Abyss.
No, I was mostly okay with Made in Abyss with that stuff, but yeah, it's really good. Gonna be interesting to see where that lands in the.
This is a one course show, right? So
yeah,
I'm looking at this. It says 23.
Oh, okay.
Right, 2 course.
So that might not make it for, because we're rapidly approaching our anime of the year.
It's next year show.
All right, you know what? I'll take it. Look, this is 2021 is very crowded. I do not need Ranking of Kings here to upset.
Yeah, that would have made for some interesting choices in our top 10 anime.
There's been too much genuinely good stuff.
I do not need Ranking of Kings running in on this battle royale at the last minute.
Drop kicking Lugosi.
Beastars Season 2 was this season, dude, or this year.
Yeah, we can't do this.
Yeah, we'll be getting to that very soon before we know it. But yeah,
preview of what these discussions are going to look like.
Start thinking now, everybody, what your anime of the year is. All right, let's move along to Lupin III Part 6. Did I see they switched to another famous detective?
Yeah.
First of all was the much vaunted Mamoru Oshii episode, which was the episode. Yes, so the episode written by Mamoru Oshii, which was a big headline before the show aired. That episode was 15 minutes of dialogue from Ernest Hemingway's The Killers, and then 5 minutes of explaining that the past 15 minutes has been dialogue from Ernest Hemingway's The Killers.
It is the most, like, gratuitously Mamoru Oshii written thing I like. Look, I have a lot. Look, I love the first Ghost in the Shell movie. I love Mamoru Oshii's I basically love everything Mamoru Oshii has ever done with Pat Labor.
Right. What about Angel's Egg?
I think Mamoru Oshii might be an anime director that I have to say, like, has got to stop taking himself so seriously. Because I think in some ways a little bit like Anno, he is actually better the goofier the source material he's working with is. And, like, look, man, Gunbuster, ride or die, okay? Like,
absolutely. I watched Gunbuster again recently with some people who had never seen it.
It's a good anime.
It is.
We can't get into it, but my point is, Mamoru Oshii is a name that carries a lot of weight to it, and I think that maybe Mamoru Oshii himself is being somehow like destroyed by the gravity of that weight, because
is it him believing the hype or him trying to live up to the hype?
I don't know. That's the problem. Like, I really can't tell.
Did any of us watch Vlad Love?
Watch what?
Vlad Love, that show he made like last year. Earlier this year, my god.
Did not.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
I didn't hear like super promising things about it, so I was like.
But again, like I'm bringing this up to highlight what you're saying, which is like that show was quote unquote notable because it's by Mamoru Oshii, when by all accounts it was just like a goofy comedy thing. But if we ascribe too much like weight to Mamoru Oshii's name, like, are we not then inevitably disappointed by, for example, an episode of Lupin III Part 6 that's 15 minutes of Dollar from Mercenaries Killers?
I mean, that sounds like it was going to suck regardless of who wrote it from the way you're explaining it.
Yeah.
It's not a very good episode. It's kind of neat for a little bit. Like, at first, it's a shame because the next episode preview makes it look like the best type of Lupin episode. And for me, the best type of Lupin episode is when a bunch of weirdo hitman assassins are trying to kill Lupin. Right. And, like, that's what it looks like initially, because you got, like, fucking...
Duke Togo.
You know, Duke Togo is there. You got, like, a hacker. You got, like, a weird knife Yakuza guy. You got Chow Yun-Fat dual-wielding pistols here. Like, at first you're like, oh, man, this is gonna be great, right? Like, these all, like... I was so sure, and this is maybe my fault for getting my hopes up, I was so sure this episode was going to be like that one episode of Samurai Jack, where, like, a bunch of assassins get hired by Aku and meet in a cabin, and they all brag about how good they are at being assassins, and how they're going to totally fucking kill Samurai Jack like it's fucking nothing. And then the last 30 seconds of the episode are all of them trying to kill Jack, and Jack fucking obliterates their asses in like 10 seconds. And I was so sure that's what this episode was going to be.
Or the episode Batman Animated Series where, like, all the supervillains
are bragging about the times they almost got Batman, and then it turns out Lupin was there the whole time, disguised as Killer Croc. Yes. One of those two. It's neither. I don't know, man. And it's like, look, I think we said this last. I think we said this last podcast, and I think we just have to come to terms with the reality that, like, look, not every Lupin series is that good.
Yeah.
Like, Part 5 proves that Lupin can still be that good, but it is not always consistently that good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the next episode is the part 1 of a two-parter where Lupin gets transported back in time or something and is facing up against Detective Akechi, the noted Rampo Edogawa character.
Yes, I heard about that.
And so
I guess Sherlock Holmes wasn't enough, huh? We got to.
So this made me go: Is the through line here just he's constantly up against famous detectives for this season? Is that
right?
Going to be a recurring thing? And also because he gets transferred back to the 1930s, and the plot is about how he found this time machine in Mongolia with the help of the Imperial Japanese Army.
Yeah, there's a bit of I'm not saying Lupin of all things needs to be more culturally sensitive. I'm like, hey, Lupin is Lupin. But when they're talking about how, like, oh, it was very difficult to get this artifact because of the unrest in Asia. It's like, gee, I wonder who started that unrest.
That's a little touchy. But
I wonder who's responsible for all that unrest.
See, Iroh, if you told me it was, this Lupin series was going to be Lupin travels time and faces off against famous detectives, that sounds like it could be all right.
Sure.
But what happened though?
Right.
Yeah. Why isn't that all right?
So
I guess
there are only two notable things. I mean, I'll say this: this time travel episode I liked more than the Mamoru Oshii one.
Yeah.
Just even if it's just purely the gimmick of like Lupin is running into all of the other Lupin characters, but they're not the Lupin characters. They're, the characters as represented
characters or something.
Yes, exactly. So that's not Jigen. It's
Major
this other
something.
guy. Yeah, except. At the end of the episode, when Goemon shows up, and it's just a regular ass Goemon.
Right.
It's just Goemon Ishikawa.
I'm hoping that the joke is to me Goemon Ishikawa the 12th.
Right, instead of the 13th.
right.
Like it's just like I called it like halfway through this episode where I was like, man, I bet Goemon's gonna show up and he's just gonna look like a regular Goemon and that's gonna be the bit. And to be fair, they did it. The timeless man.
That is pretty good.
The second thought that we came to after watching this is, if Lupin is going up against famous detectives, and this is Japan, is Lupin going to face off against Columbo by the end of this series?
Japan loves Columbo.
Yeah, Columbo's been getting a lot of traction.
It's had a
these
sudden
days.
resurgence. Japan loves Columbo, and Lupin
Right,
III itself has had an episode or two with fake Columbo.
Yes, and Columbo Jr.
So Columbo is the final boss?
Dude,
dude, that might be the silver bullet they need to save part 6.
That'll save the series.
like
the Lupin versus Columbo episode.
Like the show has built up like for 2 cours straight about this final confrontation with Sherlock Holmes, and then like Sherlock Holmes gets fucking ran over by a car in the penultimate episode, and then fucking Columbo is the true final boss.
Is Moriarty gonna pull his face off to realize he was Lupin III all along?
Like
Columbo turns to
Shout
leave.
out to Peter Falk.
Columbo turns to leave and then turns back and he's like, wait, just one more question.
Exactly.
You said you were wearing a blue jacket when you were...
Right? Like, they did set up this whole thing about, like, how Sherlock Holmes is a better sharpshooter than Jigen, a better fighter than Goemon and all this stuff. And then Columbo shows up, and Columbo doesn't need any of that. In fact, Columbo is worse at all of those things than Lupin's crew, but he makes up for it with his pure fucking...
irrefutable logic.
LA hobo energy.
Yeah, analytical wisdom.
Oh, that would be fantastic. I'd watch that episode.
And now that we've said it's not going to happen.
Okay, so now that we've said it's not going to happen, because
No,
also
of course
Columbo
not.
isn't a public domain character,
Yes.
so that can't happen.
Yeah. You can give him a different name, right? Like,
Again, Columbo Jr. is a real Lupin character. That was not me doing a bit. There is literally an arc in one of the older Lupin shows about Lupin facing off against Columbo's son,
Yes.
who has a skateboard.
they could find a way to make it happen. They're not going to. All right. Let's move along and talk
Tell us about this one, Joe.
Komi Can't Communicate, our big high-profile comedy of the season. For reference, because the episodes are all messed up depending on how you're watching.
Great.
I have watched up to episode 5, so that is my frame of reference.
Okay.
I believe Netflix, at least as of yesterday, had released up to episode 4. And I think episode 6 aired last night or something.
Great.
So just for the frame of reference, I'm referring to episodes 4 and 5 on this episode of the podcast. And yeah, as far as that out of the way, it's still a very solid comedy. I feel like they're losing maybe a little bit of steam because not in the animation. It still looks fantastic.
I imagine so.
But the premise of the show is Komi is trying to get 100 friends, so they are carting through tons of characters for her to make friends with. And some are, better or more interesting than others. The core her core friends that are like in every episode are obviously the main guy, Tadano, I think his name is, and the everyone's childhood friend character, Osana Najimi, the Osana Najimi. So they're like her core friends that are like in every episode as she's, today we're gonna meet the other psycho lesbian stalker in the cast.
Man, really, man, I'm glad to see. I'm so glad that works. Media is so much more open-minded now. Now there's enough room for two token psycho lesbians.
Komi has two psycho lesbian stalkers.
Back in the day, if you were a hard-working psycho lesbian, you'd be lucky to get even one slot in a piece of fiction.
But they're different. They're different flavors though. Because the first one is like the glasses girl who is not like as openly. She just like quietly stalks her and then occasionally slips in statements about how she wants Komi to step on her.
Oh.
Whereas the other one is the more stereotypical I will murder everyone that talks to Komi and I have pictures of her all over my room type of she gets like a whole episode where she like kidnaps Tadano and everything, and it's kind of kind of lame. Right. There's a couple good jokes in there, and then we had there's the girl that wants to be Komi's rival, but nobody pays any attention to her whatsoever, and she's not better at anything than Komi is. But she's like constantly like they're doing like vision tests at the nurse's office, and she's like, I'm gonna have better vision than Komi, and she fails. So she was pretty funny.
Sure.
And then,
it sounds like the show, like, for better or worse, right? It's like, or the benefit of having a huge cast, or just the basic premise of, I'm gonna make a ton of friends, is like, hey, if you got a couple stinkers in there, you know what? You can just kind of
go to the next one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the latest one, the latest episode is probably the worst one so far. So it's like episode 5, I guess. Where they introduce the Chunibyo girl, and they do absolutely nothing interesting or different with her whatsoever. She is the most, she's got... Although, they do joke that she legitimately has to wear the eye patch, like she has something wrong with her eye that currently.
Sure.
But it's the, the exact... Like, you can probably write the dialogue for it yourself. And that was a little disappointing. So, I don't know, like you said, they go by so fast, like you might get like half or 3/4 of an episode per character. You can just keep moving on, go to the next one. I like the general sense of humor. There are still some decent jokes in there, but nothing as, I think, quite as fun or even like I guess the more heartwarming, I guess, aspects of the show, they don't really get into that as much either. It's just like they're kind of going through the motions in a way. But that said, I'm still enjoying it. It's a very solid comedy. At least at present rate, I don't think it's coming for the crown from any of the other top GLORIO comedies that we've had.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they don't always have to, right? Sometimes, something can just be
fine,
a warm blanket, right? Like something comfortable, right?
I've been in such a drought for one of these shows.
What is the top dumb GLORIO comedy at this point? Still Nozaki?
I don't know.
I feel like that depends on what you're looking for, right? Because yes, I think it's like if you're looking for like the best mix of like sincere and funny, that's different from like the ones that are just the most funny, even if they have no substance. Right?
Yeah, if you want what is just like the funniest, like laughs per minute, probably I might go with Sabagebu actually.
Yeah,
but everyone is a dirtbag in Sabagebu, and there is
everyone is a horrible human being in that.
There is no heart to Sabagebu whatsoever.
Exactly right.
Whereas if you want something with a little more substance, I don't know. Like I think Kaguya-sama is a very well balanced one. Sure. That's a very good.
I mean, I hate to fucking bang that drum every time an anime comedy comes up, but it's like, damn.
It's a good all rounder. But if we're talking like my personal favorites, I might go like Hinamatsuri or something like that. But,
yes, man, Hinamatsuri. God damn.
That has a surprising. That's a good mix of like dirt bags, but also a surprising amount of heart to it.
Man, season 2 win, you assholes.
You just got to read the manga.
I know I need to just read the manga, but
it's very good. Do it for Anzu. That's just a general statement for everyone.
Fair enough. Yes.
So yeah, I'm enjoying it. It's fit like I think you're right, G. Just saying as a this is comfort food, a warm blanket. I'll take it. I just
Gee,
I wish the
Gee, are we just counting the days until we can get Jell to watch Spy X Family?
I mean, yes.
Oh, that is
Jell,
getting the anime, right?
Yeah.
So
Jell will love Spy X Family. I will put money on the goddamn line.
Me too.
Like Jell's gonna love that show. Like
from what I have seen of the manga, yes, that does seem like something that will be right up my
yeah.
right
As
in my
long
wheelhouse.
as long as the adaptation does not hit like Golden Kamui levels of awful, like that anime is gonna be fucking killer when it shows up.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. So, all right, let's
I mean, speaking of comfort food,
talk about Sakugan.
So
you know what? I'm gonna let you guys go first on this one.
okay. So speaking of comfort food, that maybe try to spin the chair around and get real with the kids to middling results.
Yeah.
I think this specific two-parter. No, look, I'm not saying this is this is the beginning of the Fena downturn. I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying it's not.
Ouch.
I just think that, look, it's like how sometimes you tell an actor to stick to comedy. I think Sakugan needs to stick to what it's good at.
Yeah.
Because, and I think there's still some good things in both these episodes, but when it does start to step out of its initial comfort zone, I feel like you start to see the cracks form.
Yeah.
The first of the two, where they kind of go to like this like fucking ancient machine that is implied to be the like life support system of the entire underground civilization.
Right.
Is kind of interesting in the sense of like, like what's the mysterious lore of this place? But also like I'm not sure I care that much about the mysterious lore of Sakugan.
I certainly don't.
Like,
I think with this show I would be satisfied with just a like and Mankind was driven underground by the baddies. Like I'd be like, okay. And get back to Big Tony.
Yeah, so like this whole like we got
a criminal
explore.
lack of Big Tony these two episodes.
Yeah, not a lot of Big Tony, which also
like
is
one
also
scene.
also a notable mark against these episodes. But yeah, the first of the two, like I guess it's I guess the most interesting thing is like like Memempu, she's just so driven by her ambition and curiosity, and like it gives her a sense of wonder about the world she's exploring, and it's like, all right, that's sweet and all, but like I don't know, I kind of just preferred, like I think these characters are better when they're just being unrepentant dirtbags to each other, right? And like I feel like that is why I really liked the first half of what is it, episode 5 or 6? 6, right? Like
6 is the latest one.
Yes. I really like the first half of episode 6, where it is explained that Gagumber gambled away all of the money he got, and is on the run from these like gangster bounty hunters, and are then forced to be put to work by them, because
which all happened like in between episodes.
Right. And is like explained that like they were hired by Zekletu because hey, she still wants her million double dollars or whatever.
Right.
And I liked that part, right? I was like, okay, this is funny. This is your like, we're press ganged into doing menial labor to pay off our debts, right? There's that great bit where like Memempu is like, this is unfair, like neither I or Gagumber have any money, like this is criminal. And then they fucking pull up the fucking recording of Gagumber gambling away all the money.
Right.
And fucking Memempu does the fucking like Akuma backstep.
Shadow steps over to the other side.
Over to the other side. It's like, it's a really good visual gag.
Yeah,
it's
that was
really funny.
That was very good, yes.
And then the second half tries to like get
Be, like,
capital R
serious.
real
Yeah.
in like a way that like the message feels very muddled. Like initially, like the message feels like it's a satire of like capitalism, right? Like it's a satire of the like quote unquote capitalist meritocratic society, right, where everyone is equal, right? A truly equal society is where everybody has access to the same opportunities, and it doesn't like it conveniently glosses over the reality that like people, because of their like
people aren't starting at the same place.
Exactly, right?
They may have equal opportunities, but they're not starting at the same place.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
Like at first, it feels like it's going through that message, right? Like the downtrodden, those who live in certain home situations or are disabled, whether mentally or physically, like you can't offer them the same. Like, there's a difference between equality and equity,
right?
And at first, it's like, okay, fine, if this is what you're going for like your theme of like this town.
Your after-school special message for this episode,
right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be about the underdog sewer rats rising up. Sure, whatever. I'll do this, right? Like I could do an episode of Bring Down the Man, and then it like gets really confused, like towards the end, like and the pacing is like really hectic, like it feels like two
this
episodes
should have been
into one.
Every single person I've seen say anything about this, myself included, has said they should have been 2 episodes.
Like. And then it starts like because then it becomes like a plot line about like Yuri, the new guy, like the gang leader, like his like he's descending into like extremism or something, right? Like he's
going too far.
He's going full anarchy. Destroy the government.
I mean, when I was watching this episode, I was like, sounds good.
Yeah,
right. I was watching this and I was like, Yuri literally hasn't said a wrong thing this entire episode, like. And then fucking Gagumber, of all people, being the fucking enlightened centrist who's like, no, man, you gotta like, the government's bad, but you gotta do it the right way. You gotta go to the polls. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, you, the fucking dirtbag who just, like, earlier this episode gambled away all of your savings, like, feel like you have any, like, moral ground to stand on?
Yeah, the whole like, it was just a very muddy message.
Right.
I don't know what they were trying to actually say in the end.
No, it's really confusing, and
or if they were trying to not say anything at all, I don't know, but
I feel like maybe that's what it is, right? Because even the conclusion is equally like, cliche, right? Of we got a recording of the mayor acting bad. So
that's a huge assumption that would make any difference in someone's political career.
That has been completely debunked by the past 4 to 5 years of existence.
As if the last 4 years have not proved that the media can uncover the most heinous shit about a person imaginable, and
that will not make any
difference. I will
repeat,
the only reason that I was on board with this setup in Akudama Drive was because they explicitly hacked the state propaganda machine. And that everyone was still too fucking stupid to do anything about it, except for when the state propaganda, Shark and Bunny, were like, this is bad! And then everyone went, this is bad.
Right, yes. Like, I mean...
God, that last episode of Akudama Drive was so good.
Like, you could argue that, like, Akudama Drive was, like, terminally cynical, but also, like, willing to ball harder than, like, any other anime that has aired in years. So
I think Akudama Drive was about as optimistic as you could possibly realistically be, but that's
yes.
in our present day. But yes, they covered some similar themes in a much better way than whatever happened here. And also the things
that Akudama Drive did over the course of like 13 episodes.
Yes, that's
like
true.
That's the other thing, right? Like Akudama Drive had the time to explore like what drives people to extremism, like what drives people to oppression, right? Like Sakugan tries to do this in 22 minutes and arguably mostly fails. Like, my only hope for the show is like, well, based on the OP, it seems like we have collected the full party. And the next episode preview opens up with Memempu open hand slapping everybody. And I don't know, that looks like it might be pretty funny. So, like, if we have gotten off the politics ride and, like, we're back to, like, just, like, dumb, goofy antics for the rest of the show, like, I think
okay with that.
I'll be okay with that. Like, we'll still look back on this episode as a weird outlier, but, like...
Let's hope that's all it is.
But, yes, if they can get the train back on track.
Yeah, and like I wouldn't mind if they wanted to tackle politics, but they have to do the work to make it.
They have to do the work, right?
And
I mean, that's the thing, right?
Nothing, and we're halfway through the season now. Like that's kind of too late to get any of that started. I think at this point.
Because it's like,
go ahead.
yeah, I mean, it's not like Sakugan had none of it, right? Like there are tidbits of it here and there, right? Like I'll remember the detail in like episode 2 when like Gagumber and Memempu become explorers or whatever they're called, right? And to become one, you have to sign away your citizenship,
Right.
because you know, and you have to sign away your like rights to like basically like public utility, right? The implication being that like the reality of being a marker is so like lethal that like on some level, the moment you become one, you have signed away your right to be
a citizen, like protected by the
citizen.
government. Like,
yes, and it's like there are bits of that where I'm like, okay, like that was an interesting detail.
yeah,
Like I didn't mind stuff like that, but yes, it is just way too late to try to tackle topics this like complex with these types of characters, right? Like I like Memempu and Gagumber. They are not the characters to explore this type of like theme with.
Yeah. All right. So I think I agree with all that stuff. I'm gonna throw in some bigger picture things that are gnawing at me.
all right.
Now I'm still enjoying Sakugan, and I'm not saying the show has completely fallen off or anything. So let's just get that out of the way, I guess. But I am kind of getting tired of it. Like particularly, I don't know, Gagumber and Memempu's like relationship and their characters are kind of wearing thin on me a little bit. Like, I'm not saying there needs. I'm not saying they need to like totally change by the end of the show, but I would like to see some kind of progress in their characters. Like you would think.
I think that is an entirely reasonable ask.
Yeah.
You know, as much as I just said, hey, stick to comedy and like do what you know, I do think that like even shows with tones like Sakugan, like you still have to have some sort of like end goal transformation for your characters, right? Whether big or small, right? I mean, for hell, you know, to like use a like inevitable comparison, you know, look at say the relation, you know, look at Simon in Gurren Lagann, right?
Yeah.
Like look at his character from episode 1 to, you know, episode 26, right? Or hell, even like episode 11, even the first arc of Gurren Lagann, right? Like compare, you know, that character, right? And like, yes, that's a show that's very goofy, it's very like over the top, but like the characters still develop in their own ways within the context of the narrative. And
that's just basic storytelling regardless of your genre.
Right, that's storytelling 101, right, regardless of tone. And I guess my feelings on Sakugan is like, I think we will get some of that. I don't know how much we're going to get, but I feel like inevitably there is going to be some evolution in like either the characters themselves or the relationship between Memempu and Gagumber, right? Like, because it feels like this whole show has been building up to this idea of like they both need to learn from each other, right? Like Memempu needs to understand where Gagumber's concern comes from as someone who was a former marker who, at least based on the flashback episode, witnessed his friend die a horrifically bloody death.
Right. Turn to paste or something there at the end.
And of course Gagumber in turn needs to understand that, you know, like children grow up, right? And I think we will head in that direction by the end of this show. I'm just not sure how much we'll actually get.
Yeah, so my thing is they have those moments where they come to their, you know, understanding practically every episode, and then the next episode it's back to you. Well, you're just a stupid kid. You need to stay home, and and you're just a cranky old man who doesn't do anything. And like we it's like we had the same conversation 6 episodes ago. Like I'm not saying you totally eliminate it, but there should be some kind of, I don't know, progress on that. It just gets frustrating to.
It feels like the frustrating thing of like, I think why many of us were driven to anime in the first place, because I bet every single person here in this podcast currently has watched a Western cartoon
spin its wheels
in which
like too long.
a character would go through character development, and by the next
forget it,
episode,
yeah.
the status quo would be resetted,
Right.
and each one of us would like internally seethe at the lack of like any meaningful development in these characters.
Right.
And then each one of us probably independently found anime, and we're like, oh my god, these characters actually like
There's
change from
yeah.
episode to episode.
there's a start, in the middle, and an end to all of this.
Wow.
Yes.
And it's not just designed to sell toys for as long as possible. Well, some of them. Some
Well,
animes are.
sometimes.
Uh,
I got Big Tony coming in the mail. So.
yes. Well, that I can respect that. Yeah. So I mean, there's that. I still have this sinking feeling that there's going to be some kind of overarching save the world plot, like we were talking about last time.
I feel like
They start introducing that magic liquid in the pipes.
And like the big machine, and like
Yeah.
also like we see it briefly. Like there's these mysterious hooded figures, and
Right,
it's
who've
like,
been implied to be chasing down the map that Memempu has.
and it's
Yeah.
like, oh man, like.
That worries me way more than anything else.
I mean, look, I don't think the show is necessarily going to end with like a fucking ghost telling Memempu that she has to decide whether to reset the world.
I don't know.
Memempu is the primordial virgin.
Oh god.
Like I said last time, the core of Big Tony, is the catalyst that goes into the top of the tower that they're going to.
Memempu needs to decide if she pushes the stop all war button.
Yeah, and that activates the stop all war button, and she has to decide, do you implement human instrumentality, or do you?
Okay, but also, what if all of this happens, but Memempu makes a very funny looking face while it happens?
All right, that might be okay.
Okay.
They haven't slacked off on the face game, so
Yes.
the funny anime face game. So I'll give them that. But yeah, I can see some holes getting poked in the boat here, and some water seeping in, and I'm a little concerned. But
Yeah,
I'm not giving up hope yet.
We're like banging on the ceiling. We're like, hey, Captain, are you gonna patch this up? It's you can still fix this.
Yes, there's still time to fix it, but we're halfway through too, so I don't know. It's All right. Well, I think that's it. Unless you guys want to give a quick shout out to Thunderbolt Fantasy, are you still watching that?
We are 2/3 through season 2?
Yes, we are closing in on season 2, and I mean, spoilers, still a really good show with great characters.
I will say, I'm the kind of person who highly values the way season 1 was very self-contained, and I think because season 2 is obviously building up to a larger story arc, my understanding is it does continue into season 3 and possibly beyond. I'm a little less enthused on the whole, but I could see myself like getting more into it as we get further into the story.
I think it's just for Iro and I. It's like, I think the moment to moment in season 2 is still very good. You still have a lot of just really great bits of puppet acting. But I think for us, it's like we're still having a really good time, but I think we are waiting for the meta plot to take shape, like, because I'm not gonna say it's spinning its wheels because it is building to like a climax, but like, it feels like we were building to the climax of a part 1, if that makes sense.
Right.
Whereas like season 1 was like start, middle, end, right?
Yep.
We got to stop Betsu guy from getting the sword, so we're going on a quest to stop that from
And then,
happening.
yeah, it goes full circle, and you have a really satisfying conclusion, and all that.
Whereas like season 2 feels like, like act 1 of a grander plot, and in some regards that means that we do not get the same types of climaxes.
Yeah.
But
It might make it a lot more dramatic once you do get to the end, though.
yes, I have so much goodwill for this show that I am still like having a really good time with it, and I'm willing to see where it takes us.
Yeah,
For sure.
Maybe I'll get back to that now but I'm actually still watching a lot of shows now, so I do want to get back to it though. I think I'm up to episode 5. I don't remember I don't remember where I left off plot wise. It might have been right after the main
Phoenix
guy,
Killer.
and they have their duel in the mind,
Yeah.
which was fantastic. But all right. So that is going to do it then for this episode. We can do our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com. We're probably rapidly approaching year-end stuff, but that's might be too early to talk about that. You can follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and you can check us out on YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll see everybody next time.